Hello, my name is Elizabeth Ehoutz, and this is my metaschema analysis on the catalog of cultural objects. So, just a little basic background on the CCO. The catalog of cultural objects is a metaschema site that acts as a guide and gives resources and examples on how to document and record physical objects. It was created in 2006, and the guidelines have been edited by multiple members of the Visual Resources Association. The CCO committee is in charge of the maintenance and dissemination of the CCO, and the publishers are of the American Library Association and the Visual Resources Association. So, the main purpose of the CCO is to provide a metaschema standard to document and describe physical objects, whether it be art or historical. And there are four main communities that the CCO caters to. Those are museums, libraries, image collections, including digital, and archives. The 10 principles of the CCO are establishing the logical focus of each work recorded, clearly distinguishing between work records and image records, include all the required CCO elements, follow all the CCO rules, make and enforce all of the additional local rules to allow information to be retrieved, repurposed, and exchanged effectively. Use controlled vocabulary from the Getty and the Library of Congress. Create local authorities that are populated with terminology from standard published controlled vocabulary as with local terms and names. Use established metadata standards. Understand that cataloging, classification, indexing, and display are different but related functions. Being consistent with establishing relationship between works. Being consistent with capitalization, punctuation, and syntax. Avoiding abbreviations but use standard codes and abbreviations for other countries, including the point of origin of where the work was created. And for the English language information and users, use English data values whenever possible. So the reason why I actually highlighted the Getty, if you don't know what that is, the Getty is the largest philanthropic organization museum for the visual arts. The main institute is located in LA, but they have multiple locations throughout the world. And their main purpose is to find historical artifacts to help preserve and eventually catalog them. So there are 9 elements of the CCO that they try to use when cataloging any object. That is object naming, creator information, physical characteristics, stylistic, cultural, and chronicle information, subject, class, description, and view information. The list on the right-hand side are just all of the entities of the elements when they're actually cataloging a physical object. And these elements are actually comparable with other metadata schema standards. So part of this project was we had to distinguish whether our schema was interoperable, flexible, or extensible, and to explain if it was. Since the CCO is really just a guide on how to catalog objects, it does not have the markup language needed to be considered flexible or extensible. It is interoperable though because it can be seen on different devices from a web-based format. So the other metadata schemas that I mentioned before that comply with the CCO are the categories for the descriptors of works of art, which is the CDWA Lite, Visual Resources Core 4.0, Dublin Core Metadata Element Set, Machine Readable Cataloging 21 XML Schema, and Metadata Object Description Schema. All of these pretty much correlate with the guidelines of the Library of Congress and that are government-based. Dublin Core metadata element set and the CCO are actually not government-based, but all of them comply with one another. So just to give an example of what I mean, I created this diagram, and the diagram up on the upper right-hand corner is more accurate of a hierarchy scale of how they're all equal. They basically do the same thing, but they just give a different language to what they're trying to describe. So, for example, the CWA puts their language as object and work type. And then Visual Resources Association has their markup language of VRA, work type, and or of the collection. So, an example of a CCO record is, I found this off of their website, and this is just an example of how to cite or document a print of a series. So I chose the Great Wave of Kawanagwa, created by Kasikua Hosaki, and the little asterisks next to the elements are actually indicators of what the CCO requires when cataloging a record. So work type, the title, creator display, who made it, who published it, the role of the creator, creation date, subject, style, culture, location, measurements, materials and techniques. These are all indicators of what is required of the CCO. This is an example of an OPAC catalog record. This is just to show you that the only real difference between the OPAC and the CCO record, the CCO record actually just has more clarification on a certain item or object, and has more a description for curation uses, whether it's a painting or a piece of pottery. It just gives the record of what we know about it. So compared to an OPAC record, just trying to find a book will tell you what the title is, the author, where it's located, whether it was first edition or not, and sometimes we'll just include a brief summary of what it is. Compared to a CCO work record, it's based off of the physical object. These are my references, and I hope you enjoyed my explanation of my CCO metadata analysis. And that's it. Thanks for watching.